All right. Okay.
Faster. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
No, so that, but then the other question I have based on what you said is, Julie, do you know where those recordings should be located?
I'm looking at you.
Yes. So last meeting, another member from my team, Kayla was the one that came and took the minutes and did the recording. And then we submit that to the, to Anne as well, until then they get uploaded. But I will definitely go back and check to see where was the miscommunication, because I know we have all the files and everything there.
Yeah.
And then just make sure that they get uploaded.
Zoom will have it forever.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's
Where
all saved.
are they getting uploaded on the climate, our own, the ESD Climate Advisory Commission?
Yeah, so Anne helps me and that's it. She uploads everything there where it's publicly viewed. We'll also send to the Brown Act, so they go ahead and upload like before a meeting starts, like our drafted meeting and stuff like that in the previous minutes. So I will go ahead and have a meeting with them, and then we're just gonna get together to make sure. Just because I assume the first meeting we had everything went correctly. It's just that I guess that last meeting that document is missing there. And even yesterday, Zach brought it up to attention that he didn't see it on the website. But I communicated with Anne and everything, and then they were uploaded right away afterwards. So I'll go ahead and personally communicate with her next week, so we could go ahead and make sure that everything's uploaded
I couldn't find it this morning,
this morning. Okay.
and I don't know about the other meetings. I just was trying to backtrack, because
Yeah.
the minutes that we're approving are part of the package for the last meeting.
Exactly.
So you have to go there to see that.
Yeah.
stuff.
Now, I guess the other question, and guys, tell me if I'm out of order on this, is that I think you're making a good point about where the information about us is located on the city website. So is it appropriate for you now to maybe make it might not be a correction to the minutes, but to make a motion to ask that our information be uploaded in an additional location? And if you have that location, that would be great.
I move that we accept the minutes as they are, and that in addition, that we ask the city staff to post the videos and things promptly on the city calendar, as well as the
Okay.
planning commission.
Probably helps some. We have an established.
Is there before we discuss, is there a second to that? Bill, right, even, so, gosh, I gotta get my glasses back on. Victor, Niemeyer and Bill DiVincenzi have, Victor made a motion to accept the minutes as they are, but ask that the recordings and other information, let me make sure I'm right about this, for the Climate Advisory Commission also be uploaded to the city calendar. Okay. Is there any other discussion? Glenn, do you have any discussion?
It's just that sort of separate point of clarification. For the Clean Energy Commission,
Mhm.
when I asked to see recordings, I was always given a link and a password.
Okay.
Was it supposed to have been public all along?
Yes, so the meetings, everything are public. Now you're able to, you don't need a password now. I'm not sure.
So this is
Or-
different than
You're just able
the
to,
past.
yeah, so now that it's not clean energy anymore, but now that we moved into
Okay.
coming together as one, I know that you're able just to go to the main website where we have normally like the agendas and everything. And if you want to see a recording, you just go ahead and access it
Okay.
without any passwords.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? If not, Glenn, go ahead.
So you asked for it to be in a certain location?
Well, the
Files?
city calendar is the master calendar of everything going on in the city. If somebody looks there, they can find anything, I think, that goes on. We're listed there only as a byline, miscellaneous meetings, and beneath that, go through that, and then you see, oh yeah, that's the planning commission. San Jose Clean Energy meetings were always posted on the master city calendar. And so it just seemed right to me that we have the same standing and would be posted in the same place. And as well as we have the last video.
Yeah, I guess, Julie, my question is, so with this motion, and I have a feeling it's gonna be approved, but what staff person, first of all, will this provide, sort of a requirement, if you will, a direction to staff to make this happen? And if so, who would take care of that?
So this is an advisory commission, so you guys will take, we'll follow through with what you have asked us to do, and we'll see what we can do, and we'll come back and let you guys know.
Okay,
Because you're right, there may be some protocol around the city that it's like, okay, this is how it's listed, we can't, but we'll certainly ask. I think it makes sense that it should be out there, you could see the list of the.
I think it's just total oversight and it's, or
Yeah.
it's,
So we'll follow up on that, we'll follow up on the recordings, and then we'll let you guys
yeah,
know.
and I sent a note to Ann on this morning, and I get the sense that that wasn't a good day to send it to her.
Yeah, she's out.
well, great, thanks for
Yeah,
that
no
clarity. If there isn't any more discussion, could we, shall we vote on, Victor's motion to approve the minutes with, an additional request that, the information about, the advisory commission be added to the city calendar? All those in favor?
Okay.
No, those opposed? The motion is approved and unanimously. All right. Let's move on to reports and information only. Are there any reports or information from standing committees, special committees, and possibly ad hoc committees? I don't believe there are. Oh, sure.
I do have a report that's information only.
Okay.
That is gonna take 2 minutes. I have handouts, but it's a brief statement. I'm going to hand it out. I think it's informational and it's on from my status as the technical member of the commission for the electricity clean energy. And so I'm gonna hand these out real quickly. If you would pull up that PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Start handing these out.
Could you give us the name of that report or?
Yeah, it's called San Jose Clean Energy Financial History,
Okay,
and put those on there and make sure I have one copy I can hold up and wait.
Check your emails to make sure you.
Okay.
That's a good thing, they're fast.
Send it.
I gave mine back to Victor.
So. That was me.
Yeah, no worries.
Let me go came from my Gmail.
Oh, okay.
Send there.
Yeah. I'm gonna re-forward it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Go ahead, yeah.
So we can talk, this is really for the benefit of, you can see I took public, what I've done, I've tried to follow the finances. I think understanding the money is really important for our job. I just worked with the city budget statements that are posted every quarter about 6 weeks after the close of the quarter. I had if you go to the third, let's get the slides straight, because I'm working. You have the one I gave you. Yeah, sorry. There's one that looks like this, and the green line sort of shows the net position of the city, and it was negative for a while. They raised rates in 2022, and since then it's been bringing in a lot of money, about $36 million a quarter in margin. If we go then to the last slide that looks like this, this has been, the blue line has been the net cash position in the accounting statements. And you can see that they were negative for a while, and that's when the city was backing them by writing commercial paper. When they changed the rates, that's when it started going up. Something that matters a lot to the city staff is that it's not just the cash position, but how much is unencumbered, and that's what they're calling operating reserves. So the extent that some money might be called back isn't already in the bank or whatever. And that's the orange line that's sort of been the policy target. And right now, at the end of the quarter, which meant at the end of March this year, is reported in May, it was $238 million. And it has been growing, as I said, at about 36, 34, in mid $30 million, $1 million, $10 million a month is where what's going in there. It's helped city get really good credit rating, and that helps us in negotiating power contracts. But you know, it does beg the question of how long is this going to go? And this is just background information, and anybody who wants to understand how I did it, we can do that as either an ad hoc or something else, but I don't know how to do that within the confines of the Brown Act and everything else. So it's all public data, and I gave the link, and you can see it, but it's probably easier if I explain it.
And I couldn't.
So I think you bring up a good point. What are they gonna, what are they raising this huge cash pot for? Is there a purpose behind that?
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine, no worries.
See, I log in, target of 100 days.
Yeah, try.
Right.
Over half a year.
I'm
I'm sure 6 months of offering across standard industry kind of
Okay.
seem like zeroing into standard industry practice.
Right.
These CCAs around here. Something like that.
But it's my understanding that they were gonna earmark some of that for programs.
Yeah.
Well, now
Yeah, I think they did.
I think that's fixed. Now they've reached the operating reserves.
Right,
What,
So we're still
some of it did go.
right.
But by the way, what is the target now? Because, well, with RA price going way up, operating reserves was increased, target was increased, right?
This is probably not something we should be discussing in as much detail now. And it would be fair for the city staff to give a chance to see if I've got these numbers right. They haven't. I worked with them on earlier parts of this, so I'm pretty confident, but they haven't seen this version. I think that if we want to discuss this in more detail, if anybody wanted to join me, I would follow up with city staff and would verify. I'd really like someone else to look at these numbers with me. So if you want to have an ad hoc on this, just one meeting ad hoc, we come back the next time and have a 10-minute report on what we found and have the city's staff's chance to comment. I'm good. We can discuss that at the end of the meeting.
Right, we've got a section for ad hoc committees, so we'll talk about it further then.
And now that's all I came looking for. Sorry.
But I think also what will be valuable is like the insights and knowledge that, that the San Jose Clean Energy staff have about some of the details as Glenn was sort of mentioning, and I think that'll help maybe clarify. Just out of curiosity, Victor, what is your goal to just simply make the information available, or do you have a goal that at some point it would trigger for you certain other kinds of actions, or do you have that kind of a
As a
goal?
member of this commission, I have my own views on this that are just, no weight over anyone else's here. I'm happy to put this information out there. I'm happy to work with people as there is group. But I'm not, as a private citizen, I have my own opinions of this and they're what I bring to the commission, but.
Great, well, this is great information, thanks.
Yeah.
I will. We might like to see what the finances look like for the climate smart side of things as well. It doesn't have this revenue picture, but understanding something about where the money is coming in and how much money is there and what it's being spent on seems like a reasonable thing for the commissioners to have knowledge of.
Yeah, I agree. That's great. All right. So with that in mind, I'm not sure that we have to accept that report formally, but, I wonder, do we?
It wasn't an allowed item on the agenda.
It's not, there is an item, this just reports. I don't know that Victor's, alerted, and I don't know if you have to. There's so much about.
The reports are informational and often the staff will talk about what's going on with clean energy. That's what we've heard in the past.
Right.
Zach would say, we're really making money this year or we're worried about that.
Okay.
Well, and so that's why it's so general informational and it's not to be acted upon. And I think what I did was in the spirit of that.
Okay, unless you want to just simply make a motion that the commission accept your report as, for what you're just saying for its value for information. You
I
don't want to
don't,
do
I don't see
that,
why the commission has to
to do
commit
that.
itself.
Okay.
Something I just brought up.
Okay, super. All right. Well, let's then, thank you though. Let's move on to old business. The next agenda item is old business. At the last meeting, we agreed to postpone a couple of actions. And one was Manny's recommendation to the city council for a set time for climate smart items. And the other one was the development of ad hoc committees. And so Manny, could you give us, I've talked to Julie, but can you give us an update on where we stand with your recommendation?
Yes, I've written up a recommendation that will be for our September meeting. After I finish the update, I'll motion to schedule it for then. The purpose is to schedule city council agenda items which are recognized as of importance to reaching the San Jose climate smart targets, and to reserve them in city council meetings until 4 p.m. so that students of high school age and other young people who have a particular interest in our city's action to combat climate change are able to make public comment on them and their voices heard in the civic process. Unless there's any preliminary discussion, I'll motion to hear and take potential action on that item at our September meeting.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
there a specific
there's-
action that you wanted, that you're recommending, Mike?
Yes, for
I think that, Manny, you need to get, it's been deferred to September.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So we don't have to take any action on it now because it needs to get to the right people at a certain period of time. So it's been deferred. So it'll become another item of old business for September.
Can I just ask him a question on it?
Sure, I don't see why not.
I just was wondering, does the youth commission, do their, reports go at the same time, 4 p.m.?
yes,
Okay.
that's the time for the youth commission. So I thought that was the most applicable.
That's not the book. Okay, thank you.
I missed the asking question. I missed the maybe begin. Has there been any feedback from city? Your proposal?
No, so far I've just written it and run it through
Through?
and they also
Oh, okay.
Okay, and, okay,
so
and then I have no feedback, other than the process for it.
just in terms of like it's logistically written correctly for this.
I don't know, Julie, do you have any other information you want to share about it, or is that pretty much what we just need to be aware of?
No, we'll just follow the process that is required to try to move that forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
speculation.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's very difficult to do time. They only do that for very specific instances, so I think it'll be difficult to get through, but there's no harm in trying, and I think we have a good argument for it, so. Let's see what we can do.
All right, and then the other item of old business is the development of ad hoc committees. And I guess what I'd like to do, there could have two sections about this. There's one, and I just wanted to reiterate a little bit more about ad hoc committees, but then move into, there's one ad hoc committee, I think this is, which is what I brought up in an earlier meeting, that we can vote on. We can discuss, we'll get through that, and then we can discuss other ideas. Maybe Victor has already brought one up for ad hoc committees that would then be, probably would need to be on the September agenda, I think. So is that true, or can we vote on other ad hoc committees even today? It's not the way it read in the agenda, but it seems like we should be able to.
Yeah, I didn't think you had to specifically say what what topic was for the ad hoc, but you can do that without lead time. It's a report by subcommittee within the commission, and the report comes later, and that's a calendar, or I mean, a agenda item. So my opinion is it's legal to talk about things that are,
And vote on.
and vote to launch, an ad hoc committee.
Right. So we'll start with, if I understand what you're saying, we'll start with, the cool roof expansion. Ad hoc committee, because that was on the table in the last, meeting. And, but before I get there, I just want to encourage everybody to consider the creation of ad hoc committees. I think it fits within our commission's role, of course. And to me, this is a valuable way to expand the impact of the commission. It allows us to, in smaller groups, tackle topics that we feel are important and within our role, and bring that to, the city as valuable ways to enhance the role of climate defense in the city. So I came up with, in talking with, maybe it was Anne, I can't remember. I realized that there could be some Brown Act issues around ad hoc committees. If multiple people were on the same people were on different committees and there was some crosstalk. So that's why I brought up, plus I'm interested in it, the concept of cool roofs, because it's a very narrow topic. And I felt that probably that would be an example of a narrow-based committee that would not have issues with it. However, issues with the Brown Act. However, that's not suggesting that I think every ad hoc committee should have a narrow focus. It's just that's what I was coming up with. The one thing that some of you might not be aware of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julie, is that an ad hoc committee, one of the values is that it doesn't need to have a staff person present at its meetings. And that actually is valuable for us to move faster than we otherwise might be able to. And an ad hoc committee can be composed with just one member, and that's sort of what Victor was even suggesting. Again, I think given that we are a group of 11 now, I think we can have a committee up to 5, which is short of a quorum, which we can't have ad hoc committees reach a state of having a quorum for obvious reasons. So let me now go into the whole discussion of the cool roof expansion. And actually, I'm in the middle of installing a cool roof. So I'm learning as I go as well. And does everyone know what a cool roof is?
Could you define it?
Okay, it's basically, it fits under, there's cool roofs for residential and commercial, and they're quite often constructed very differently. And so a cool roof for residential quite often is asbestos shingles, and cool roofs for commercial tend to be, because they're usually quite often flat roofs or whatever, and they might be white. And they also are constructed of different kinds of materials than a residential roof typically would be. They are intended to reflect solar energy, the sun back. So what's great about it is it's not only great for the climate, but it's also great for reducing the energy requirements of a home or of a building, any building. So, and that's good for climate, right? Because then we aren't, as we get people who might install cool roofs, then that automatically, without them doing anything else, reduces their energy requirement. And that's what we desperately need now as we move so many things into electrical requirements as opposed to natural gas, thank goodness.
Is the main benefit the energy conservation for cooling or reflection?
I don't know that anybody would be able to say which is the main benefit. They're both a benefit, because some people might look at the main benefit as being reducing their energy costs. Other people who are climate focused might see it as more valuable from a a solar, a climate perspective. So, to be really candid, right now, the, asbestos shingles that are cool roof centric have a certain kind of, material that actually is reflective material in the roofing itself, which does causes the reflectivity.
So my next question, I mean, maybe it's something for the ad hoc committee to dig into. The question is, say for our, if the focus is on energy, not the reflected radiation, but on the energy impact to the grid. Whether actually it's better to have a cool roof than to have a dark roof.
Absolutely,
For our climate,
right.
given that many houses around here, most of their energy consumption is in the winter and not in the summer. It's not transparent to me what the right answer is.
Oh, you mean in terms of that by reflecting the energy, they're actually reducing, they're
Right.
requiring.
Heating a little bit more in the winter.
I don't, I actually had thought about that too, but I think that from my perspective as here in this area, we have mild winters and we're getting very hot summers. So I think we need to look at the seasonal differences from that perspective. And I think that overall, I think we would find that the metrics would say that the energy requirements it's in its favor to have a cool roof.
It
But-
depends if
It
you're-
has to be more.
Depends if you're using electricity or oil too.
Well,
So, but
Right.
ad hoc, as you say, the ad hoc committee can consider all those. things.
Right.
I mean,
And
I think there's been some modeling, but
Well, and I will say that sort of is waiting for me to get approval.
Yeah.
That's sort of the research that we need to do to find out exactly, but I think everybody is saying that cool roofs are a really valuable opportunity for climate.
yes.
So, is this something that can be a solution in conjunction with solar panels, or you have to choose one or the
Oh,
other?
no, in fact, we're gonna take our old solar panels off because they were pretty much, there's 2007 and they're sort of failing now. So we're gonna take them off, put the new roof on and then reinstall new solar panels. Yeah.
So is the purpose of the ad hoc committee to come up with a proposal for incentives or what?
Very good question, and thank you for that, because that takes me to my next comment here. From my point of view, for this time around, given that, we all know the city has budget problems, that the focus right now, and this is where we always start with information anyway, is on awareness building and education. So what I wanted to do, the end product of the committee would be to focus on developing guidelines for community awareness building, along with examples of educational materials and awareness building promotion that can be incorporated into the city, potentially the city website, Climate Smart, and other city programs and materials. So it's really at this point, educational. And I also want to include a supporting detailed report that might get into some of the things that Glenn talked about. And give the city staff automatic information on not only the information on purpose and use, but ways to create cool roofs for both residential and commercial structures, along with links to relevant further information. So it's just really meant not to take that next step with incentives, because I think we need to give ourselves and the staff and the community an opportunity to explore the value of cool roofs, and then go from there. Besides, I don't think there's really budget for at least city incentives at this
It
point
might be
anyway.
the IRA.
That's good. Well, you know what? To that point, I think the research could be done and see if exactly where we stand on that. That's a really good point. Yeah, why not? Right. And so that's sort of what I'd like to try to do. And I guess I can move myself. Are there any other questions or thoughts?
I'd be happy to move that we have ad hoc committee on cool roofs that would outline what they are and what are some of the pros and cons to them, and what are possible action items that the commission might endorse. And we hear about it either next meeting or the one after.
That's second the motion.
So,
Is that motion?
yeah,
Happy with that motion?
yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to try to incorporate everything I want to do into your motion. So, and I think that's possible. It really needs to have, if you want, I would like to maybe, thank you. Have you just maybe amend it to include that the focus is very much educational and awareness building, an opportunity to do that with the community, because I think we need to do more than talk about it within ourselves. I'd like to see some kind of action on outreach to the community, see if there's interest and what might be required to generate interest.
Karen, if after informing us what they are, making that recommendation that we build awareness, and the city support building awareness, seems to me like a reasonable outcome of this, and that would be one of the suggestions you would have. And if that's not explicit in what I said, I'd be happy to make it explicit.
Okay, that would be great. And I think, thank you. And I think just so that one thing I didn't mention is that I totally, this is sort of on a personal note, I totally am aware of how stretched the city staff is right now. So what my intention, if I do it alone, that's fine. If others want to join me, is to actually do as much as I can to build a report that is complete and useful for staff, not simply make recommendations to staff that they have to then fulfill. That's, other than using the information, the report that we give them and all the tools that we give them, that it's easy for them, should they choose to want to do so, to incorporate it into various, maybe eventually next year Climate Smart, someplace on the website, that it's easy for the staff to utilize. That's my hope. So, do you want to repeat?
You have-
that?
You have
motion?
those,
The other one?
did you hear what I said before? You want to read it back?
Yes, I have it all recorded, so what I
Why
did
don't
is
you
I'll
read it
take-
back?
Oh, I didn't write everything down, it's like points, and then I'll go back and like refill them in
Okay.
for a minute.
What I say now is gonna be different from what I said before, but that's the way it works. But the point is that I have personally, and I move that we have ad hoc committee to inform the commission first about the technology of cool roofs and the benefits of them, and also to outline potential pathways that this might turn into actions that the commission might recommend that might be informational or further. There's no reason to limit it to just informational, but
Right.
we'd like to know more. I mean, that's the words that I'm going. We'd like to know more, and the idea of providing this information to wider audiences
Mhm.
is one of the things that might seems to fit under the jurisdiction of this commission. So,
Right.
But we have to hear it first before we can make that recommendation.
Right. Well, and just keep in mind, whatever you see from this, you don't have to necessarily approve all of it. So, yeah, we can, what I'm saying is that we don't, because time is of the essence, so I don't want to make this draw this out.
We're not accepting whatever you come back with is what we're gonna have to go with.
That's right. Absolutely. So you have a motion on the table. I think that's pretty clear. And Glenn has now seconded it. Is there any other discussion? If not, and I don't know that I can repeat that one, a motion to develop an ad hoc committee that explores the value of cool roof in San Jose, and along with information about its value and how to effectively inform the public, educate the public about cool roof installation. Does that sound close enough?
That sounds great.
Okay. Is there can I see a show of hands of approving the motion? And And any opposition? No, it's carried unanimously. All right, well, thank you very much. Thank you. And I guess in terms of committee size, if anybody wants to join me, let me know.
First 4 volunteers,
Yeah.
right? First come, first serve.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
We'll discuss
Oh,
the next half of Victor's.
Yeah,
okay, then,
Right.
the other one would be to discuss the finances of San Jose Clean Energy and come back with a report where we can discuss it as part of the agenda item. It would be based on what we have there, but verified by the members of the ad hoc committee and, with an opportunity for the staff to give us feedback as well.
you would like to turn that into a motion?
I move to turn that into a motion.
Thanks. Okay.
I move to form an ad hoc.
And Glenn Garfinkel, makes a motion to accept Victor's comments and
Form an ad hoc.
Yeah.
to format, right,
So,
an ad hoc committee to develop, more analysis on the,
The city's
financial,
San Jose Clean Energy's financial.
Yeah, right.
Position.
and who seconded? Bill DiVincenzo seconded. Is there any more discussion? And could we then vote all in favor of this ad hoc committee being formed? And any no opposed? It's also unanimously approved. Are there,
Once again, first come, first serve,
Join your
Bill, okay, and we're good enough. If anyone else wants to join us, okay.
all right, are there any other committee ideas that you want to bring up at this meeting? Ad hoc committee ideas?
I do have a question. I'm wondering if is it always one direction where the commission comes up with the ad hoc, or is it appropriate to ask staff what they actually need help on? Or what is in alignment with goals that they're actually trying to pursue, but actually staff with like with stuff that's in there?
I don't see any problem with reaching out to staff and inquiring about, the status of various programs and issues and needs.
And that's something you can do as the chair in working out the agendas that, I would ask Zach, what do you need us to comment on or give you feedback on? And, they shouldn't be shy. Sometimes they have statutory obligations that they need to go back to the city council and say what we said, or at least make that part of their report. Other times there are things that they're curious about, like outreach design or questions about outreach. And I mean, that's one way that could come in to, we could actually have an item on an agenda at a future meeting to discuss, what's our role and how can we be more effective. And maybe at that point, staff can say what we're doing that is helping them and what's just sort of adding to their workload.
Yeah.
So those are different things that come to my mind as to how we might address that. But it's a great, we're trying to be helpful.
Right.
Right, exactly. Right. Well, then that might be something that if you want to form even an agenda item for next month for that discussion, I think that would be great. And then also, I think you could probably reach out to Anne and, for more information as well. And if you want to do it, I guess we could do it together. If you want to, would like me to participate in that, I'd be happy to.
Okay, so it sounds like it's okay to send an email, like, hey, do you have any suggestions on how we can help you guys out?
Sure. Fantastic. Well, I think that closes off old business and let's move on to new business. And there's a lot of content here. So what I'm going to do is trying to follow Robert's rules is I'm going to, at least to some degree, I'm trying to, is there a motion? I'd like to have a motion from someone to open up discussion for all the new business so that we don't have to do this over and over. And then for the new business that requires action, we'll have other motions, specific to that action. But in fact, if you'd like me to, if that's confusing, I will just do that. I will move to move on to new business and open up for initial discussion, all the new business items. Is there a second on that? Ruth, thank you. Second. So I'm making that motion to open up the new business for all agenda items. Believe it or not, Robert's rules actually requires, and I talked to Julie about this, actually Robert's rules requires that you have to make a motion to even open an agenda item. And that seems like pretty cumbersome to me, but Victor had mentioned something about the last meeting, so I'm trying to be more diligent about reading Robert's rules. So, yes, so
When do you open? When do you open this for public comment, each item?
that's a great question, and we'll do that after the commissioners have discussion.
Okay.
And
Will we
can-
open it for the last?
Yeah, I
item?
did not do that. You're right. Thank you. Thanks, Ruth. And so I will mention to the public here that if I forget you, and please interrupt me, don't let me go on if you've got a comment. Could we have a vote on opening up all the agenda items in the business? All in favor? Aye. Yeah, I guess nay. Okay, Victor says no, but
I said it.
I'm sorry, Tony said is an A, but it passes with a 9-1 vote. So moving on to the bios for the Climate Advisory Commission website. We had a suggestion at the last meeting that we expand our bios beyond our names in the roster. And in fact, that was the approach that the CECA had taken. And so I chatted with Ann a little bit, and Ann had thought, to make, it might be like a couple of sentences. I said, well, let's give people at least 150 words. So let's open up for discussion for if you want to have bios. And secondly, if there are any constraints on the bios in terms of word length, etc.
Sorry, another question. Lots of learning here. What do the other commissions do? Like if we're going to be semi-consistent?
That's probably a better question for Julie.
Yeah, that's what that's kind of what we were thinking is like we guys had done last time, so why would we do this? I don't know exactly what all the other commissions do, but even just the fact that the last one did have it.
What
Right.
did that look like? Was there a photo or is it just a couple?
It's just
sentences?
text.
Yeah.
Well, we could get photo if you wanted it, but
It's a-
we were thinking,
Yeah, we didn't do photos that I recall.
Right.
We did a paragraph.
right,
Paragraph.
yeah,
So 150 words.
150 words,
Oh.
right?
Yeah, about this right.
Yeah, which is about that.
I just remember the paragraph.
You can afford it printing.
This is
So,
all electronics.
Does anyone want to make a formal motion to have bios for us on the city website? And a motion, it was a motion by Bill DiVincenzi and seconded by Victor, that we move from names only to actual bios on the website. And there probably would be a maximum length of, what do you think? Around 150 words or so. I don't, it just sort of gives a guideline. Does that work for everybody?
Is there a template so that we're all like answering kind of the same questions? Like, do we want to share which district we're from or what our day job is? Or like, is there a template of sorts?
This is, I don't know, we just winged it last time.
Well, I can tell you how we did it for, there's basically, I think you write what you want
Right.
and they'll edit it if they don't think if it's not appropriate, but otherwise you can say, I have a little background in this and that, and I have an interest in that, and I drive a Golf.
Where you came from and what you want to see
Yeah, I
happen.
have a little brown dog. And
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, oh my God.
Officer, gardening,
Right,
smoking cigars.
yeah, I think.
You can say whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
So we have a motion on the table. We had some discussion. Any other discussion? And, let's take this to a vote for the motion to have bios. All ayes and, any nays? No, and the motion approves unanimously. This is a group of very, uh, people who are very in sync with each other, can I say? All right, so wonderful, thank you. That motion passed. Moving on to the commission bylaws. Let's go and take a look at those.
Um, with respect to that, why are these are ours, so we have power to amend them, or and these are proposed to us by the staff, is that correct?
It's I don't really have an answer to that question. Maybe Julie does. It was basically developed from a city template with some modification to make it specific to us.
I think it's based on the terms of, how, you know, what they set the committee up. I think it's all.
I mean, it's so what's the hope here for us to just say, okay, now that these are the bylaws, and sure enough, we ought to respect them and read them, and we can quote them to each other when things get hot.
Actually, I have an issue with one of them.
Okay.
All right.
And so in terms of office, it says that the chair and vice chair will continue to the first meeting day of February on successive years. Well, most of us have our term ending in December. So I see that as a perennial problem where either the chair or the vice chair are gonna, their term's gonna end in December, but their chairmanship doesn't end until, you know,
Oh, I see.
February.
Right,
And so those things ought to be in sync.
right.
Looks good.
Good point. Could you point out exactly where that wording is?
Page two,
Right.
Article 2, Section 201.
Okay. And could you give us, how you would change the wording specifically?
Well,
Are you able to do that?
so I mean, you could either make the period of the term ending in December, or else you could say that if a commission, if a chair or vice chair has a term ending in December, that is automatically extended to the end of
Right.
the, I mean, either way, it
If
doesn't
the
matter.
term could change or either one could change
Yeah.
to be in sync.
Look at section 202 though, because that might answer your,
Section 2 where?
just the next section on vacancies in office.
Oh, okay.
But that just leaves a hole. I mean, it just leaves a hole, then it's not very satisfying.
Oh.
Yeah, and so every year we're gonna go for a couple of months with a hole over there with someone potentially with a pro tem or something like that.
So why don't we change it so that instead of saying February, it says the last meeting of,
December.
yeah, the last meeting of the year. Some of them are in December, some of them are
All right,
November,
well,
whatever it is. The last meeting of the year, because people's, and the first meeting of the year is when we elect new officers, and that covers.
That's fine. That works.
Okay, so
Are the terms always going to be synchronized? Because the things are we solving one problem to box in another one later if the terms,
well, when is your term?
I actually don't know.
The terms all in calendar
When they
years.
throw me out when I walk
Yeah.
in, I guess.
So they all end in December.
They all.
Yeah, they're all
Yeah.
calendar.
Will that be the case, ad infinitum? I mean, are there?
Yes, so if
That's in-
someone should.
That's
if
the,
someone should leave
For example, does the new commissioner's term end in December as well, or the new commissioner's term?
they ended December.
when they join?
Yeah, he doesn't
They
get
ended
2 years.
December. They ended
They
December.
end December, but it's a 4-year term.
And then the final question is, how do other committees handle this decentralization?
I
I don't know.
think it arose because we were so late in getting this.
Probably. Yeah, probably so. Right.
Right, I mean, it sounds like the one might be that you, rather than put individual dates, you just synchronize it to the commissioner terms, which are already synchronized. And I'm not a legal guy, so I don't know exactly how you want to do that, but, you know.
So we say that the last meeting of the year, the chair, vice chair terms end at the last meeting of the year.
That's not good to me.
But the last meeting of this commission is in November.
That's fine.
Well,
That's the last meeting.
The
of
last
year.
meeting of the year,
Yeah,
it'd be November. Whatever it is.
Well,
oh, for the chair, I see what you're saying,
Yeah,
yes,
for the
yes.
chair.
Mhm.
I mean,
Right.
if it's meeting activities, it's
Right.
clear it should end at the last meeting of the
Right.
year because
Yeah.
the terms are synchronous with the calendars. And I think that I was appointed in September and had to reapply in December, so.
Is there any,
So,
yeah,
So doing that
Yeah.
way, I think matches Philip's concern.
yeah,
Uh,
right,
to some degree, the chair might have responsibilities after that meeting. So I sort of like to think that their terms end as long as till the end of the year.
I think that's
Or-
right, I think that was my concern, that they're still, right,
Okay.
yeah,
So that every new so concurrent with every new commissioner term, just like when we met the first time, the chair and the vice chair are elected when the new commissioners arrive and the old commissioners are.
It's just the first meeting of the year. It was the first meeting and that the first order of business was to get someone that's there.
right. I think to say, instead of the last meeting, just to say the end of the year, I think that does give that, again, we avoid a vacancy issue,
Yeah, some emergency meeting the day after Christmas.
right? Right,
You're out of luck.
there you
job.
go.
Well, we have a pro temp. That's when you have a pro temp there.
Is there any
So
other?
good catch.
Yeah, yeah. Any other discussion on other,
You want me to restate the motion?
sure.
I
why
think
don't
the
you-
staff understands the spirit of it, can reflect it in the future.
I guess on this one, do we want to have all the changes and we'll have, so hold yours, are there any other changes and we'll put them all into one motion?
Okay.
Otherwise, we could have a lot of motions here, but I don't care, whichever way you want to go ahead.
That's fine with me. Are there any other people that wish?
Just a quick clarification, section 502, special meetings can be called at any time. Typically, there's some language in these things that say you have to provide notice, since this is a public commission, to the public X number of days ahead. So when it said,
Oh,
From that, so if that is it.
I think you'd only need 3 days. I think I saw something like that.
is it listed in there?
I think
Yeah, it says
it's-
in accordance with that.
Okay.
Yeah, it says in accordance with the Brown Act, okay. So are you, Bill, does that satisfy your concern?
I'd love to see it spelled out, but that's fine.
You want to define, how would you spell it out? Did you
Just
give us
say
the
that,
language?
You know,
3 days or 2 weeks.
yeah, whatever the time frame that the Brown Act specified, you know, that you have to
Okay.
provide public notice of in 3 days or 5 days ahead, whatever that says.
Okay. Okay. Is that good enough for you? Yes. Is there, are
Oh,
there,
yeah.
yeah, you're good.
Sorry, yes.
Is there any other changes that you'd like to see made at this time? So with those two items, we'll put those together, if that's all right with you and all of you. And for the syncing of terms and end dates for commissioner activity and the specifying the Brown Act timing for notice. Could I have a motion on that?
Motion. I move that we do what you said.
Approve bylaws as amended.
Approved, that's right.
Motion to
Yeah.
approve bylaws as amended.
All
Yes,
right,
thank
cool.
you. Thank you,
Second.
Philip. Philip moves, and is there a second? And Bill seconds?
No.
Or
Tony.
Tony seconded, okay.
Okay.
And any other discussion? And if not, could I have a vote on this motion? And up for ayes, again, ayes have it unanimously. All right, so thank you, guys. Thanks for looking at the bylaws. Okay, where are we now? we are at
And her report.
Attachment B.
the annual report, which let's go there. And this is fairly straightforward. So this is attachment. What is it? Attachment what?
B,
B.
yes.
So are there any is there any discussion about anything that you might have found wasn't accurately described?
So, yeah, I have an issue. So I'm very confused about how. So, I mean, someplace in there, in one of these documents, it says that the the Climate Action Commission works with Department of Works, Housing, Planning, Building, Code Enforcement, Energy, Transportation, Park, Irrigation, Neighborhood Services, and Environmental Services. And I don't understand how climate smart matrices into those organizations and how that stuff all works out. And I don't know that this is the appropriate place to get into that, but that's been bugging me from day one, is how that all works out.
Could you point out, is there a specific place in here?
You
that-
know,
Not in here, or-
That sounds like a good ad hoc committee to me.
no. It's up to them. I think it's up to the climate smart to explain how that all works out. I don't see anything in here that talks about that. I don't know that the annual
You're part of
update.
the agenda.
I mean, we have presentation from Department of Transportation.
Right.
We had several presentations in the main meeting.
We did.
Yeah.
And I thought Ann is sort of the focal coordinator for bringing those groups in to talk to us and then there were some reports. I
I heard a lot of fuzzy language. Who makes decisions if there's conflict? You know, how do you decide things? Who sets agenda items and stuff like that when you're talking about stuff? There ought to be ways in which that's formalized, otherwise.
What time is it?
I was at
8:04.
So, maybe, I think we have time. Would you mind, Julie? I mean, this is sort of, talk about ad hoc. This is just on the fly. Could you just give us maybe a couple of minutes explanation? And we probably need, for Tony and I agree, maybe more, dive into more detail, but just a high level understanding of how Climate Smart fits into all those different departments.
So I feel like we should probably put this as an agenda item,
Yeah.
honestly, because
Okay.
I don't think it's gonna be a couple of minutes.
I
And
agree.
you have a lot of agenda items already on here that are,
Okay,
on the agenda. So
so
it's good.
let's,
Tony, you're okay,
I am perfectly okay with that. I'd rather have a complete answer than.
all right, if you
So,
want to just define how you would describe the agenda item.
So I would like to know how clean energy matrix into all these other organizations that they're working for.
Clean energy.
Or Climate Smart.
I'm sorry, Climate Smart matrix into all these other organizations that they're supposed to be working.
So you're moving to an agenda item to have a representative from Climate Smart come in and explain the governance between them and the other organizations.
Yes.
Well,
Okay.
Do you mean the
that's-
other departments in the
she's
city,
here.
or do you mean
Yeah.
No, other parts of the city.
departments in the city?
Right. So there'll be a public works, housing, all clean energy, all.
We're all part of the same organization, but yes,
Right.
departments in the city and how we sort of interplay and, yeah, exactly. Okay.
Great, okay.
And we think that would be useful because that would help us understand how we could be more effective as an advisory committee.
Thinking of that, Karen. Didn't we have, San Jose Clean Energy come in?
Today,
Yeah.
Where is that on our status? I don't see.
not today.
They were.
In May.
May.
Okay, because I see ESD, energy department.
Yeah, they call it
Okay.
energy
The
department.
ED group, before I lived there.
Yeah, right.
Are there any other
Should we-
questions about,
Should we
This chart.
should we write out the names? This is our annual report, since it's for the public. If I didn't pick up on ED right away, should we just spell out the names of the department?
I think that's a great idea, yeah. So,
And accurate.
that's a modification.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So actually our first, if I'm correct, the first modification to this, annual report, the other, what Tony was asking for really is turned into an agenda item.
Right.
So, are there any other changes to this report?
But I think there's just one, right? Because we're gonna accept this
Yeah,
report, right?
Well,
As amended,
As
as amended by your suggestion.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not gonna amend anything based on what.
oh, no.
No,
that's
but
what I'm
that, I
saying,
think,
right.
I think we're gonna probably have a separate motion. at
Right,
some point
right,
during
so,
the meeting
yeah,
to
yeah.
Get that added.
Okay, got it.
And I don't know if this is the right time to do
And
it.
I don't think
Kat,
agenda
you-
items have to be a motion on them. They can just be sent to the staff.
That's fine.
I
So
think that, I
I
think
move that we
yeah.
accept this report as amended.
Okay, very good. Is there a second?
Second.
And all in favor? Opposed? Unanimous approval?
So I know you want to second it, right?
Yes.
Okay, can check. Yeah.
Is there, and I apologize, are there any public comments about the annual report? Oh, okay. I've got to get mine. Good about that. Let's move on to the,
Since we were discussing these all as a group, any comments would have come right at the end.
right. Oh, I realize that, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, where are we? On the, attachment C. The, semi-annual update, Climate Smart semi-annual update. And, I'm sure you've all taken a look at this, and again, this is strictly, now this, I'm gonna turn this over to Julie. This is, and to, who's going to provide an overview of this document for us.
Thank you. So, so this topic, so normally we do have these semi-annual updates that go to city council, so every, twice a year. And we wanted to give you guys a little background about how that came about. And essentially when Climate Smart was adopted, city council gave us direction to do these biannual updates. And so currently, we have them standardized to happen every April and October. So we would go to both T&E and then it goes to city council, in those 2 months. And then we've also standardized the sort of like reporting term because there is like a lot of lead time going up to city council meetings. And so we cover September through February in the April report. And then we cover March through August in the October report. Our team does lead the work on this, but we obviously are having to go to all the different departments, part of our coordination that happens with the different departments to get input. So what we wanted to talk a little bit about was just kind of how I don't know how many people, actually looked at like the previous ones that we've done. They're very lengthy. We've sorted them out based on the carbon neutrality by 2030 the 4 strategy areas. So the reports that we give to council then have those 4 strategy areas, and then we talk about the programs and initiatives within each of those. And I'll go through those in a second. But in addition to that, we also typically talk about funding and resources. So we'll talk about updates on any grants we've received, how much we've received to date, how much we've submitted for during that reporting term, how much we're kind of waiting for and what we see coming ahead as well. And then we also, now we include the Climate Advisory Commission updates within there. And we also have a section on outreach and engagement. So across the departments that work on Climate Smart, the types of, and obviously we're not going to talk about every single thing that we do, but we usually have a summary of, general like social media posts, presentations, events that we've had, things like that to give some metrics around that too. Yeah.
Do you attempt in this report, do you attempt to cover emissions sort of status?
So yeah, I'll let me talk about what we have first and then I'll talk about that. Yeah, that's a good question because that actually also has come up from city council before and I can kind of tell you what the status of that is. But just to go through really quickly then what the 4 strategy areas that we cover: power our community with 100% carbon neutral electricity. And then within each of these sections, we talk about what we've had in the past, the topics and initiatives we've talked about in the past. And the reason why we're presenting that to you guys is because maybe there's things that you're like, well, what about this? What, should we include that in there? Or maybe there's some questions that you may have around how we present it, or questions that you have about, like, or that come up for any city council members about more metrics and things like that. So,
And you guys attempt to include clean energy, and since you're covering like carbon neutral electricity, you encompass San Jose clean energy sort of status.
yes, so it's basically San Jose Clean Energy, or the Energy Department. The core, basically, it's the 4 core departments within the city that cover climate smart. It doesn't mean that there's often little legs that go in other departments too, like housing, and sometimes we'll do updates on some other stuff if there's relevancy there, or significant updates. But typically it's an environmental services, the Department of Transportation, planning, building, and code enforcement, and then the energy department. Those are the 4.
Water too.
Those are and ESD covers water. So, and environmental services has water. We have urban greening. There's quite a few things that are within environmental services. So, and also water is not one of the 4 key strategies under carbon neutrality because it's a very small portion of our emissions. Okay, so just to go through the 4 categories and kind of like what we've talked about. So power in our community with 100% carbon neutral electricity. Typically, San Jose Clean Energy talks about carbon-free and renewable service options, participation rates, and any other development updates. So that's more around like the power resources part of it in that section. And then under switcher.
Sorry for interrupting. I was surprised to see, and there's probably a very good reason for it, but why you refer to it as carbon neutral electricity instead of clean energy electricity.
Mm-hmm.
Because carbon neutral suggests that it isn't free of fossil fuel, right?
That is very carefully chosen language. So actually, I thought you were going to say, why don't you say carbon free instead of carbon neutral? So we have said carbon free in the past, but it's a very specific language. And probably San Jose Clean Energy could talk a little bit more about this, but and maybe you're familiar with, the difference between 24-hour carbon free versus carbon neutral, which is they're not, so
resiliency, that's why they have to have that gas power.
It's the gas, okay.
Time of use,
peaker plant,
a big deal, and how much storage you have, right?
Okay.
Like it's so carbon neutral is what what's what the city council adopted was carbon neutrality. So we're still framing the power portion around carbon neutrality. But I know that they also still are looking at, and there are businesses that look at trying to do 24-hour
carbon free.
So,
well, that's what I wondered, because I realize we're having to do that now, but I wondered in terms of a goal, a long-term goal, why we would talk carbon neutral instead of a long-term goal would be
that would be a whole topic you might want to have San Jose Clean Energy come and talk about, because they also have, their planning resource. I always forget what the name of the document.
IRP.
Yes, the IRP. What does it stand for?
Integrated Resource Plan.
There you go. Okay.
I can see
that integrated IRP, it does lay out a pathway towards carbon neutral by 2030, but they may, so they may want to kind of talk about that. And actually, that's one of the topics that they would.
Right, yeah, so I mean, it used to be carbon free by 2030, and when did it change to carbon neutral by 2030?
So I'm talking about the carbon neutrality goal. I'm not talking about San Jose Clean Energy. Perhaps they have their own separate carbon free.
Oh, is that right? So
I don't want to get into what I'm not going to speak for them.
Climate Smart was always carbon neutrality by 2030?
No, council adopted carbon neutrality by 2030 in 2022.
That's where it's coming from.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So Climate Smart was never about carbon neutrality. It was about reduction, right? And following the Paris Agreement, or meeting the Paris Agreement, which is not getting into carbon neutral, is not getting to zero carbon or carbon neutrality or any of those things. It's just a major reduction, right? So now, because council adopted the goal of carbon neutrality by 2030, that's the language we're talking about now. So,
Okay, got it.
but
Right.
our resources are whole other, so that's, we should probably have that as a topic. If you guys want to talk more about that, go and have San Jose Energy here for that.
Well, thanks for clarifying the difference there. Thanks.
Okay, so under switcher appliances for from fossil fuels to electric, we took in the previous versions, and again, this completely depends on what type of initiatives are happening in the city. But as an example, we've talked about Electric Home San Jose program, which is our incentive program for fuel switching, the San Jose Clean Energy's energy efficiency programs, electrification workforce development. So San Jose Clean Energy covers that as well. And then the energy and water building performance ordinance, which is actually underneath our climate smart team. So we're giving updates on all of those, and we would plan to next.
Oh, okay, great.
Can I
It's going.
discuss
Mhm.
detail that, what sort of, what news you guys might have on the workforce? Well,
So do you mean like beyond what we talked about in the last
Oh,
update?
yeah, could you repeat Glenn's question, because I'm not sure
Oh,
everybody could hear it.
I was asking about workforce development.
So San Jose Clean Energy covers electrification workforce development. I know, and I believe we talked about in the last update, that they are working with a consultant to look at what are existing workforce development programs, where there may be gaps, and what we could then put in to fill that gap. So I believe that's part of the work that they do. There's a lot of other things going on there too, because there's a lot of things happening regionally too, that they're part of this regional group that's looking at this as well. And then there's also the San Jose or Silicon Valley Clean Energy Future Fit program, which trains contractors. And I know we were partnering with them to try to get, because they actually do allow San Jose contractors, because obviously San Jose contractors probably also serve Sunnyvale and other places. So they were allowing them in there, but they weren't, they didn't have the full, they couldn't fund some of the other pieces of it unless we put funding. So I know they were talking about partnering on that as well. So that's some of the stuff that's happened around workforce development. But we would definitely have an update in the next one as well in October on that topic. Let's see. And then on the reduce the miles we travel in our vehicles by at least 20%, which is covered under the Department of Transportation.
Julie, when you say
Yes.
words like how, or do you mean the government or all San Jose residents? When you say reduce, we're talking about reducing all commuters?
You mean,
This is just city.
Who's
Just
we?
city.
Well, that's what I was, that's the question.
oh, who's we?
Yeah.
Reduce the
To
miles
the extent that
we
the government
travel.
is saying.
So it's basically, I think what the easiest way to say who we is whatever is included in our greenhouse gas inventory for how you measure,
Everybody.
vehicles, which is within who travels in through the city of San Jose. There's a very specific protocol.
Everybody in the confines, everybody in and passing through the confines of the
So
city.
yeah, more than just the residents.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see, the DOT typically covers the Better Bike Plan 2025, as well as bike share service expansion and micro mobility hub on San Fernando Street. Those are the kind of three topics that they were including last time, which we would continue to update, because they're the active initiatives currently under this topic.
Julie, of all these, if I think you sort of gotten through everything. If not, don't let me stop you.
Oh, I have one more section.
Okay,
Just
then
finish it up.
I'll
Okay.
wait.
So then there's the fourth strategy is to move to zero emission vehicles. And underneath that one, we've talked about the California Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Project, which actually provides rebates for fast chargers. The electric vehicle education pilot, which was under San Jose Clean Energy, and also our building reach code updates that we've had, because there was one specific to EV infrastructure that we did recently. And then other than that, within the report we give to the biannual reports or semi-annual reports that we give to council, we have a looking ahead section where we typically talk about, hey, in this next report, this will kind of some of the, either we're gonna go to council for these items, or these big major things are gonna happen, like say launch of a new incentive program or something like that. So we talk about those so that people can kind of see what's coming as well. Oh, and actually I have a little note here about the emissions portion. But let me just answer your question about emissions. So whenever we do, at this point, we've been doing the community-wide greenhouse gas inventories every other year.
Okay.
And whenever we do have a closure of one of those inventories, we always include it in here in the updates, but that's only every other year, right? However, I am moving to just utilizing whatever funding we can that we have to be able to do them every year, because it's, especially because we're very quickly going towards our carbon neutrality goal and see where we're at. There is still a lag time though, and everyone should know that, because that's really important. There's a significant lag time in the data that we get to be able to do the inventories. It's almost like a year off. So that's why you see these inventories that it's like, oh, our last one was 2021, which is like, seems forever ago, but that because of the fact that we do them every year, the lagging data, that's why.
So 2023, we're gonna get it at the end of this year?
Yeah.
Before the end of the year?
That is what is in our performance measure for our new data person, yes. I'm really, and she's, ramping up too, and we'll probably.
On board.
Yeah, Hannah Greenberg, she's from our team. And we'll just probably be working with ICLEI because it's gonna be her first time in there, working on it, so we'll, but that is our plan to have oh, sorry. So ICLEI is a group that they're not really, they're more like I think they're a nonprofit actually, and they actually work with almost most of the cities around here to do inventories. People sign on, they have like a standardized platform that people use. We went away from using the platform, but we still work with them to like make sure they checked over our data and like talk through some issues on data and stuff like that. But so we'll probably use them a lot more than we have in the past, just because it's going to be, all of the learning experience for Hannah.
Sorry, so target was the end of the year?
End of calendar year, yeah. For 2023, yeah.
Yeah, if you guys could move to every year, that would be.
Yes, I know, exactly, right? So we are, that's what my plan is going forward. Is we didn't really have the ability to do that, but I think we'll just make space. We'll figure out what we're gonna, not do, because that position covers all of our reporting, all of the, we have a bunch of other reporting that we do. It also helps with a lot of the grants and other things. So it's like pretty maxed out.
Do you anticipate,
Well, hey, Glenn, could you speak up a little bit?
Sorry.
So everybody can hear you.
do you anticipate, I know you don't know the right numbers now. Stuff's rather preliminary, but do you anticipate, a significant improvement over 2021 data? When I say significant, I mean like maybe 5% reduction in emissions at least. Something like that.
I'm hopeful that will happen. I don't really know, COVID really changed a lot of things, and perhaps in a good way, somewhat. But it's kind of hard to say. And so I think it'll be really interesting to see the 2023 numbers and see where things have changed and where they haven't, which way they went. It's, but it is really hard to say. A lot of the, obviously, like where it helped was that a lot of people are telecommuting now, right? So perhaps that's better, but then maybe a lot of people are also then individually driving. So, so we'll see, I think, with the 2023. I don't really, honestly, I don't really know right now.
It seemed like looking at, I was kind of trying to look over some of the numbers on the dashboard. In the past, you have up to 2021, and the improvement year, every other year, it's not bad.
Right, but I think what Phil's, what I think I would be able to predict is that we're going to started to see this in the 2021, where we are going to start to stray away from that carbon neutrality, meeting the carbon neutrality.
Yeah.
Right now we're on it, but it's like, that was just because of its very early stages. We have it's like this, right? It's, so it is a very lofty goal, and it's good for us to have, but we also have to be somewhat realistic, but but it's good to have, and I think it's good for us to see that we need to do more to reach it.
earlier I had commented that I had trouble knowing what the vision was for climate smart and all. And this sort of really ties to it. And we were talking a little bit of the carpooling, an electric car. The our Halos all. That sort of understanding what the inventory is and how it's done at a high level. I mean, you know how much gasoline is sold in the city. You know how much natural gas is pumped through the city because PG&E knows that. And the oil companies have to report things. That sort of way of containing that. So knowing how the inventories are created and then knowing how our different programs are expected to change the numbers in those over time is, I think, the sort of the big picture that has been missing for me in this. And having that discussion at some future time that actually lays out what that vision is in terms of, you know, what we're starting from and what we're doing, and it's structured that way would help me a lot. I don't know if it would help other people, but I'll put that out and hope somebody says, oh yeah, or so. What do people think of that?
Have you read the methodology? I mean,
I've
read the report, the
I've looked
inventory,
at the inventories.
and they didn't have the
I saw the
methodology.
totals, but you're right. I did not study, well, it's 270 pages. Or, I mean, you know.
But isn't the methodology at the beginning that you supposed to be at the beginning?
I went through it, Ruth, and you're right, that there are details in that I don't know. I'm curious, do you know?
I don't remember. I've read it before. I thought there was a methodology, but I don't.
There
think it-
obviously is a methodology and someone.
But I don't know how
attach that.
detailed it is.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, but for our purposes, I mean, just sort of general idea of what the philosophy of it is and what it's doing and what it's measuring. Because I think what any of us needs to need, and you know, if I were going to apply it, I'd need to know the methodology, but just to know what's behind it or what approach it's taking. It'd be very efficient, I guess, or inefficient for each of us to go read the 40 pages of methodology to understand it when, you know, 2 slides and 5 minutes questions would probably get it. And that's what I think I would like to see at a future meeting if other people would.
So I guess maybe just to close out this
Mhm.
topic though, because you guys certainly might want to talk about that as well, but I think for, you know, we do these biannual reports. You've seen the samples of them. This I talked about, like kind of typically how we structure them. Is there any input, you know, from this group in terms of that, or, you know, and doesn't mean this is the end of that conversation per se, but like, you know, because we'll bring this topic back before each time we're going to go back to council and that's on the agenda again. But would love to hear if there's.
What does the council seem to want?
One thing that was one of the last couple of meetings that I remember, you know, there obviously is more interest in more of the metrics piece, right? And we talked about the difficulty with some of the metrics. But I think that, you know, maybe we're still thinking if there's some creative way that we can still get glimpses, whether maybe it's not a full inventory, but maybe it is more like pulling some quick data that we know may change, because that's the problem is, you know, in particular, we say it's easy to find the natural gas. It's not. PG&E won't give it to us as a final until July following the calendar year. So it's like that, there's a huge lifetime. They're cleaning the data, and that's because it's, you know, they're trying to get it to very precise, but how much did that number change from, you know, January? Maybe not so much. So maybe we can kind of look at those as preliminary to get glimpses in, right? So that's kind of how we're trying to think of creatively.
You know, I can see that I used 555 therms or whatever last year, and I know what that emissions are, and it was 6 tons, or, you know, I've done those numbers for myself. Those things come out like you get your yesterday's electricity usage.
Yeah, but that's an individual. PG&E also has a very bureaucratic process for requesting, and then they take like, you know, 6 months to give you the data. So
yeah,
it's a problem.
I accept that they might not be on board sharing information quickly, but we're not billing it either. It doesn't have to be, you know, financial.
I think you'd probably be shocked how fragmented the systems are inside utilities and the like stacks of tens of generations of things. And it's having worked in data centers with legacy companies, it's shocking they can get any data at all.
Okay,
So, I wouldn't doubt that it legitimately takes them 6 months. And it's getting better as they put smart meters everywhere, but like especially large commercial providers probably still have a lot of legacy stuff that needs to be manually entered. So you may be able to get better stuff in residential, but
that's,
we can have ad hoc committee to talk to utilities.
I'll join you on that, Bill. I like it.
Sorry.
So I don't forget, is there anyone, yes, you have yeah, please.
Is it the right time?
Yes, absolutely.
So I heard a news report about, the several cities have, or it's becoming more common that cities are developing their own climate plans and roadmaps because the higher level government, state and federal, were not setting the goals that cities wanted to set. And so there was an overview looking at the different cities and how they're measuring what success is and what factors they're looking at. And one thing that was very interesting to me, I think it was Portland, but I can't remember for sure, that they were looking at, while they were meeting their goals in certain areas, they found that when they looked at consumerism, that affected their climate goals significantly. And I don't know if it was just specifically to buying on Amazon and then the transportation of bringing things in, or how detailed they looked at it. But I was just wondering, are we looking at that in any way in our climate plan?
So, so in the zero waste element that is in development, I know they're doing more of a dig into those type of topics. However, if you look at the international protocol for how you do greenhouse gas emissions, and I know this maybe, the protocol and how we do emissions and how like many other cities do, you would be double counting if you're looking at if you go back to the life cycle basically of some products, right? I mean, the life cycle is important because you do need to account for it, but if, for example, there's like something being manufactured in China and then we're buying it, like they're counting, the emissions from that production, and then we're counting, waste because that's within our jurisdiction, right? So that's the protocol that we follow. So we don't include a life cycle. Some cities have looked at that. I know that, but we don't have an intention to do that. I don't believe at this point, other than the zero waste element and the pieces that will be covering.
How does the zero waste element interface with climate?
How does it interface with it?
Yeah, how does that affect? Are you working together? Is it?
Maybe explain what
Yeah.
the zero waste are.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just wondering about time too, and like
Right.
whether, because I think you guys, do you have that on as a topic to cover zero waste element and like, I would think you would have an in-depth conversation probably about that.
I don't know that we have it specifically identified. We'd have to look, but it certainly would fit within our,
Yeah, because I can answer some of your question, but
I could add that.
it also could be
Yeah.
lengthy, so I'm just wondering.
One sentence.
That could be added as an agenda item for another meeting.
Yeah.
Actually.
We should, I agree.
We do ESD, so basically within the Environmental Services Department, which is where Climate Smart Team is housed, the Integrated Waste Management Division is leading the zero waste element. We have been reviewing and looking at it. They're leading the whole kind of development and everything else, but we definitely do work together on it and have provided input. That element, if it's approved by council, would become part of Climate Smart as additional metrics, showing how we're reaching our goal, basically, just like the natural working layouts one also is the same. And that's also connected to the Climate Smart update that we're going to talk about in 2 items down, where we will be incorporating those 2 elements into the Climate Smart plan officially through council.
Well, thank you. I just brought it up because it was such a significant amount of emissions that I thought it would be worthwhile to at least explore it.
Yeah.
Well, if there is any, yes, go ahead, Tracy.
Just to answer your question about, recommendations or questions on this update.
Right.
How accessible is it to people for English is not their first language? Is the update translated into a couple different languages?
No, just like any other city council, that it is a memo that goes to city council, and I don't believe any of them are translated.
Hmm.
The only way that perhaps that could happen is if instead of doing a big memo, we said, here's an attached report, and then every single time we get the whole thing translated. That's a possibility you could do, and then there would be a cost associated with that, but that's how we could get to.
Well, even if
But
not, like
catching-
everything is translated, I'm wondering if somebody like just wanted to follow along and just know the like plan 2025, right? Just the 3-4 word phrases of the topic to be translated, then they could follow up with something that, hey, I want to learn more about this. Just thinking of ways that it could be more accessible.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Did you have another question? Did I see another handout? Yeah. But we should move on soon, so we're running out of time.
So, I mean, that's something that you guys could put in your recommendation, right? And it doesn't mean you have to define exactly what that is, but just say, that the commission recommends that we make the report in some way more accessible, and then we can kind of come back and figure out how.
Well, this is something that Julie and I were talking about. So if you would like to do that, we could vote on that to ask staff to make that we can make a recommendation to staff for that, a formal recommendation as opposed to just a discussion about it.
Because there's a section in the council memos, just so everyone kind of understands that will say what we went to this commission, here's what came out of that commission.
Right.
This is their input on this.
That's a good point.
So
Would you like to do that, Tracy? Have us sort of vote on formal recommendation?
Yeah, I think it's this is so important to all the residents and everybody living here. Like these are major initiatives that are getting updates on. So I think it's really reasonable to think that someone wants.
You want to give us a motion for that wording let's see, how would we do that? We just need to come up with some language around that.
It would just be a motion to have Climate Smart try and make these reports more accessible to people with English as a second language.
Does that work for you? Do you have any languages you want to specify or just leave it at that?
Challenge, right, is the languages.
Well, city has
yeah.
standard languages that we translate to, so Spanish and Vietnamese, and now also, sorry, I get Mandarin,
Maybe.
or it's,
There's,
Whatever.
yeah.
Whatever you guys normally
let's
do,
do
I
that.
mean, you're gonna try and figure out
So-
some of this with your resources.
Right, like so if somebody's on the website and they're already looking at things
Right.
that are translated for them, there could be a link of like,
Right.
hey, bike.
So
Alright,
it's not so much you want this translated, but that each one of these should link to this section of the website that explains them, which is already translated into the language.
Right, I'm not looking for like a word by word to word like translation of the entire report. I just think if like the semi-annual update topics could be more accessible, that people could follow along, like, oh,
Right.
they're
So that each one, like Better Bike Plan and Micro Mobility and
Right.
California, that it just says that each one of these there should be like are these projects available in multiple languages? The idea that this is the thing we're talking about.
yeah,
It's
almost
like-
like if this was a table of contents or something like that, then they could know that, oh, this year, for this report, they talked about, or had updates on these topics.
Well, I think that,
yeah.
Tony was close to the language we want. In your, if you want to just, take your language and maybe modify that slightly to accommodate what Tracy was saying about, that it doesn't need to be fully translated, that it just, the topic level.
Yeah, so I thought the way I phrased it left the exact implementation, implementation, put the word, to Climate Smart based on their resources, so.
Right,
Yeah, okay.
right.
So
At their discretion based on our concerns.
is there a second on this?
I'll second it.
Likely, okay.
Or did I make?
You made the motion. I'm like,
I'll second
okay.
it.
There you go.
Tracy said, motion,
Motion, I'm second.
that I will not try to repeat that from Victor, and I think you've got that. To ask Climate Smart to do translation of important documents, of key points in documents. In other languages, and and we have a second, and
I think we said the city languages that they normally translate to, something to that effect. Not other, you just said other languages.
Yeah, the city has a set of languages
Right.
that it.
Yeah,
Right.
so, yeah, okay, she's got it.
Yeah.
They're out there.
She got it. Thank you.
And it was Vic's twin, Tony, who made it up.
Yeah.
so let's call for a vote. All in favor? Say aye, and opposed, unanimous approval. And I think now we can move on to the next discussion that Julie's going to lead on legislative and regulatory outlook.
I'm sorry, did we actually, was there anything to approve for the attack? Could we
No,
made a recommendation, there was no, okay.
no.
So that was just information only.
That
Thank you.
we did approve that request that came out of the review of the document, but
Got it.
we don't have to
Thank you.
approve the document.
Okay, thank you.
You were soliciting input. I'm not sure this is the input you were looking for, but I was wondering, for a while now, this ordinance topic that you're so interested in, whether that can be something that
Yeah,
on as that.
we are running out of time. Is that something you can take offline with Julie?
Well, just one sense whether they can take it on as sort of topic.
So Ed Schreiner was moved from our team over to San Jose Clean Energy, and
Okay.
that was listed as one of the work items.
For him,
Yes.
I see.
However, San
Do we
Jose
subcontract?
Clean Energy can decide, I mean, that's not council direction, so they may want to talk with her.
Okay, and I'm gonna end that discussion so we can move on to the legislative and regulatory outlook.
Right, I have a question about that. So who decides the city position and how is that done?
So, the city has legislative priorities that are adopted through city council. And so that sets basically what we can go forward with and support or not. And so if it falls within, so for example, if it's like, we're gonna support clean energy or whatever, I mean, more specific language than that. But then if a bill or legislation comes up and we're like, this falls under this legislative priority, then we can decide if we want LEAs, and like they usually go to technical staff, right?
As opposed to support versus monitor.
Yeah, so they'll typically come to staff and say, if it's like San Jose Clean Energy, if the energy topic, I'm probably gonna go to San Jose Clean Energy and say, hey,
So those folks.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. And a lot of times though, it also has to do with like, if there's other groups, right, that are asking for us to join them, then a lot of times that does, moves us into a support position or opposed position, versus just monitoring.
That question is similar to what I wanted to ask, is to understand when you support the specific bill, the city is important to the city. What kind of support do you offer? Can you offer for, say, let's say that at the federal level for the bills? What can you actually do?
Typically, support means we've submitted some kind of letter or have joined some kind of coalition.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question though, because it's like, what does that, it can vary, like in terms of what, we do, but we also have, the city has lobbyists, and I'm not as involved in that part of it, because that happens through our intergovernmental relations team under the city manager's office. But they have lobbyists, and so sometimes they'll go and start talking to, I'll say, oh, this is really important. They'll start asking questions or like figuring out what else we can do. So that may determine what level of support we put in. Right?
Now, is that something that would fall under our purview? That, having this information, which is amazing. I don't know who put this together, but it's truly amazing. If we felt strongly as a commission about supporting a specific policy or legislative, bill, could we bring that request? I mean, it may not be on, you can't honor it, but can we bring, is that appropriate for us to make comment about that?
Sure, I mean, I think so. What I'm trying to figure out though is if there's a better place where it'd be more useful to put that information. And so one thing I don't know is, I don't know that the Intergovernmental Relations Group goes to council on a regular basis with information about what we're doing across different legislation, but if they did, that would be a really great place to then put, like, if you have a recommendation and it was heard through here, then maybe that could go into that council part, right? That may have a more formal response to it. But aside from that, so we can find out about that for you guys, but like, aside from that, it may be that, you guys can still obviously like come to us and say, hey, what about this one? Like, what's going on there? Why I don't support it, whatever. And we can respond to that.
Yeah, that would be, I think what would be valuable, and then, sorry, I will acknowledge you in just a second. That would be really valuable, I think, for us to understand how that all works a little more fully and to understand a little bit more about the Intergovernmental Relations Group and how that sort of influences the workings of the entire city around these legislative and policy issues. Anyway, so yeah, Victor.
I sort of like the idea of us being able to sort of give our support for something to the extent that helps the city marshal its resources, support things. We're not on ourselves going to be going to Sacramento, right? It'll be through the city somehow. I'm sort of sobered by the amount of things that are going on here. And for us to review them all seems there. So for us to go through this and then decide which ones we want to ask the city council to ask government relations, and then put a little extra elbow grease into lobbying for, that's just doesn't seem like it's likely to happen. On the other hand, if there's something that people who are tracking all this already think that the commission's support might be helpful on, and they came to us, then, saves us from having to do all the searching, and it sort of prearranges that what we're doing is something that's relevant to the process that's already existing. So, I appreciate having this information, and I know the people here who have a lot of side activities and really appreciate seeing this. And so it's a nice benefit for being on the commission. You get this, but for us to go through this, just, I'd say thank you for giving us this. And, and we'll take it home and read it. And if you have anything you want us to comment on, let us know.
Well, I do agree with that. And at the same time, I think that sometimes important policies, important legislation comes forward in a variety of ways. And I think that doesn't hurt for us to, in those instances, which I agree won't be frequent, but we can, acknowledge that there might be times where we recognize as a certain bill that works really well for the city, our goals and objectives for San Jose. So I wouldn't preclude it. That the opportunity might arise.
I don't have any problem with that at all. Just wondering how you make it work, right? Because you've got something, then we have to put it on the agenda. Then, we have to discuss it, and then we vote on it.
Right.
We're not when we meet every other month.
Right. It's a lot. I agree. Yeah. Although there are some things here that are more clean energy, energy department related that are on here that we have a little bit more information about and might come forward. That's where I was noticing that there's some things there that might come forward for us, but I don't disagree with your, I think it can work both ways. I don't think we should preclude it. So, I'm just curious, and I know we don't have much time, on the state bills, are there any bills that you can point to really quickly, Julie, that the city has prioritized as high, they're considered high priority?
Yeah, I can't tell you offhand which ones, other than what's already in here. And typically, our IGR team, so we did work with them to develop this. The ES Environmental Services also has our own people who work in legislative, and also I know San Jose Clean Energy has regulatory and legislative staff too.
That's true.
So,
Right. Yeah.
we worked together to make sure this was encompassing all aspects that we knew about, but, yeah, I don't
Right.
know offhand.
Okay.
State side or.
Because there is,
Maybe
as
more than-
Victor was saying, there's a lot here. Yeah, do any of you folks have any of the public, any comments about this information, any legislation or policy that you want to highlight? No, okay. Are there any other
I'll mention
comments?
that there was one that I was thought. So I have an interest in was 1374, but it was recently modified to it was a net metering aggregation bill, but it was just recently slimmed down and sufficiently strongly narrowed, so maybe it has no significant impact for San Jose anymore. Not clear it did have a first place, but now it certainly doesn't. So, yeah. Things evolve rapidly. Second.
If there's no more discussion, I guess we will move forward. Is there anything else, Julie, that you wanted to talk about for legislation?
Oh, maybe just really quickly, just so you guys know, let's see. I was just gonna give you kind of an update on like what the timeline was too for going forward with that. But right now, I'm not seeing it.
So was it an option that we would get a presentation in the future from the intergovernmental relations group, or was it more us going to the council when they're presenting?
I don't think we really discussed that directly, but
We used to,
From IGR?
yeah, they used to come at the first
Really?
couple years of our commission, but then they stopped coming. I'm not sure why, but they did.
we could probably request that if we feel that's valuable.
I feel like these are all, there's so much in every one of these topics, like the ones that I understand, transportation, for example, the Bicycle Commuter Act. Like I knew that impact because I lived it, and then when it stopped, I could see the impact that had. So I was wondering if it might be really educational if they could come and talk about some of these, just to educate the public, to educate us on some of the important ones that they feel.
Julie, is that something we can just ask Anne to explore? They have the intergovernmental relations group speak to us, or do we need to make a formal request, or can we just explore that at this time?
You can just explore it
Yeah.
and see if
Yeah.
it's possible.
Okay,
And this is what I was looking for too, that, so the last day to amend on the floor is August 23rd. Last day for each of the houses to pass is August 31st, just so you know kind of the timeline. September 30th is the last day for governor to sign or veto, and then the general election, November 5th. So I don't know if you guys are looking for like, okay, because we're already kind of at the end here, right?
Right.
Like what passed? I mean, so September,
right.
maybe in November meeting, what's an update on what passed? What does that mean for the city or something like that might be interesting.
I
Definitely.
Yeah, I agree. And that's what I was really wondering in this list is, the status of everything. Yeah, so, okay.
What actually got through.
All right. So, okay, so, that is just simply a discussion item. So let's move on to the climate smart San Jose update.
All right, so the climate smart plan update. We wanted to give you a little bit of background. This is a project that actually Anne is leading directly, so it's a great resource for this. But basically, we adopted the original Climate Smart San Jose plan in 2018. And when we adopted it, we did say that because it was built upon the city's general plan, that with every general plan 4-year review cycle, so basically approximately every 4 years, we would do an update on Climate Smart. So We are working on an update currently. And part of, so when we ask for funding to do an update, I think it's important to know we have limited funding to do an update. Therefore, the update is very focused. It's really what we're calling an administrative update. So what we wanted to make sure we did was, because we have the natural working land element that was approved, hopefully we'll have the zero waste element as well. It's in the process, kind of end of that process now. So we're hoping to incorporate that as well. Because we have the pathway to carbon neutrality goal, make sure we update all those numbers and all the drafts showing like where we, are hoping to be and all that. And then just some of the other things that staff had noted were either inaccuracies or things that changed in those 4 years, right? Like in terminology, because for example, one of the things right away that it's like zero carbon homes versus just saying all electric, or just some of the language and just where we focused needs to be updated. So those are where, so this is very administrative. So you're not going to see a lot of like, what should we do in this plan? We're not doing a lot of community outreach. We will do some just to kind of let people know what this plan will happen with the update, but it's not the type of update that we're looking for, tons of info, because we don't have capacity to add some of the things that we perhaps wanted to, like an equity measures or something like that. So that's the plan right now. We have a master agreement with Ramey and Associates to do the updates. And just in terms of what's planned to stay in the plan, we are planning to keep some of these core pieces of the climate smart plan, which were like this Good Life 2.0 stream that kind of goes through. It talks about what are the community benefits to climate action, not just like the emissions benefits, but also like quality of life benefits. And we like to keep that aspect within the plan. Also the pillars and strategies kind of format is planned to stay the same, and just the general look and feel. You'll see, you have similar like coloring and things like that we've had in the previous to keep the brand recognition going. But there's also quite a few updates, and I feel some of them I'm really excited about. And so we just kind of wanted to share a little bit about that too. So in the plan, this isn't necessarily update, but just so you know, part of what we're also going to include is, and if you looked at that, and she has a copy over there, it's like, it's a very large document. It's not very accessible, right? So we want to make something that's going to be a small, concise one that really is going to be the point where people are going to go to instead of having to go back to that plan. Of course, that has a lot. I mean, it has a lot in it that's really important too. And I think it's good to have that sort of as background, but to be able to just refer like, what are we doing? What is our strategies? Where are we going? All this stuff. We'll have a much smaller document that we'll be able to refer to for that. And then, some of the things that we noted too, besides just kind of inaccuracies and changes in technology, was some of the metrics that we had, and you'll see this on the dashboard too, they're just not able to be tracked because there's not data around them. So it doesn't make sense to have them continue to be in there. And so we re-looked at all the metrics, talked with the departments, like said, okay, this is the intent, what are the things we can measure, what do you have access to for data. And so that will be coming in the plan update as well. Let's see, we talked a little bit about the carbon neutrality, the natural working lands, the zero waste elements. And then let's see.
So if they're gonna be in more in-depth discussion of the waste element, next time, zero waste element, next time.
Next time.
It's the status of next steps. October 2024, zero waste element to city council. So are we gonna hear about that in September?
The zero waste element?
Yeah.
I don't know if do you guys have that on your agenda for September? Or?
It's not listed there yet. I mean, we can certainly add it. There's just a couple of key things noted thus far.
Yeah, for September.
Plans. September, I don't know what else.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I feel like you guys have, I feel like there was some back and forth with Anne about that topic, but I can't remember because we also obviously have to coordinate with the integrated waste management.
What's on there right now is transportation semi-annual update and the update from PBCE and policies and programs. That's what's identified.
And we were also gonna talk about how
And
Find Smart interacts with others.
that's right.
But there was a question about zero waste, and since it's going to council, I thought it might be appropriate if we could squeeze it in. Get a quick update on it.
It's probably
Right.
already done.
Okay, add that to the agenda.
Yeah, there's already a
Maybe
draft.
just,
They closed the public comment. That's part of the problem with it, with the timing, probably, but I mean, it's still valuable for you guys to hear more. in
So
depth on
maybe
it.
it would be good if you could send us a link to the draft, is that
Mhm.
appropriate?
Mhm. Yep. We include like link in the minutes or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's on that. Okay, oh, so, but I did want to mention though, so part of the model update, so you have this is more an internal piece, but like there was a huge model that was developed behind the climate smart data, and one of the things that the consultant is doing is really trying to streamline that. But part of one of the things that they're adding to it is this scenario planning tool for city departments to be able to use, which I'm really excited about because, part of our work plan for this fiscal year, part of our plan as a climate smart team for this fiscal year is to be able to help the other departments with work plan where it really lays out not just the initiatives, but like what's the greenhouse gas reductions benefit from those initiatives, and sort of like also what's the gap left, right? And so this scenario planning tool would be more like a ability to kind of toggle between and test out ideas of like, okay, if we did, say 500 change outs of natural gas furnaces with this incentive program, what would that look like versus like, what's our goal? If we only have funding for this, what does that look like? So that's still in development, but that's what's planned. And so I'm interested to see how that kind of comes out because the able for staff to, be able to use that for planning purposes. But just in terms of just the overall, the next steps listed on the document here. So we're still going through internal reviews of very preliminary documents. I know we're here today just talking in general about what's planned for the update. ZWE will go, the zero waste zone will go to council in October's plan for it, and then we'll have late fall is when we're planning to go with this updated climate smart plan to city council. And also we'll have the public webinars prior to going to council.
So the question I had had to do with, how do we market? I mean, to me, this is kind of a well-kept secret, what we're doing, with this plan. I mean, it's fabulous, what we're attempting to do for the city. But I don't know anybody outside this group who knows about it. And I think that's a mistake. I mean, residents should know, what we're working on and what for their benefit. Is there any, I mean, you say, public webinars, but how extensive would that be? How would people know to even attend a public webinar?
Yeah, and I think actually this is where it would be really helpful to get turn that around and then get your guys' input because, we've been talking about this update in the biannual reports for probably like almost a year and a half or something like that, right? And so that's the place where we get information out about the initiatives that we're working on, also in our climate smart stakeholders group, and in our technical working group.
I'm talking about,
Well, right, and so
general public.
So how do we get information out to people? How can we? Because I feel like we try as much as we can to like post stuff, send out social media, and it's like people are, and I'm a person too who lives in the city and has a family and has a life outside, right? It's like people are busy. How do you? What are there better? I think are there better ways to like get information out? Because sometimes even if you put it out there, people aren't reading it or don't, So it is there. It has been there, and we have been talking about it. But whether people know about it, I totally agree with you. I don't think most people know about it. So. When there's topics where we do really need like people, because we're not quite at that point yet, and this isn't really a project probably where we need it as much, but you know, other projects where we do really want to make sure we're getting input, because it's like a policy or something like that, you know, that's when we're doing extensive outreach and like really trying to go where people are to like get information out. But I mean, I would consider this not one of those, honestly.
I feel like Manny might have lots of good ideas for this because, you know, I think we all know that sometimes reaching out through the schools actually can be more beneficial to actually even get information to the adults, because you're right, we're all extremely busy. But do you have any kind of like formal relationship with like the teachers in the city, the science teachers, for instance?
Yeah, we've worked with various teachers or school districts on different types of projects in the past, and we do have connections with a couple and with the district as well. And actually, I found out that they just hired a person who's working on sustainability, the San Jose Unified School District.
Oh.
So that's going to be a really important conversation to have, to see how we can work further with them to get information out. But they also have restrictions too, right? Like you can't just put anything you want, like a flyer to everybody, or, you know, so there are limitations, but there's also more we could do. There's more we could do in any of the aspects though too, but we have, right, exactly. We have limited capacity too, so it is, you know, but I think that's always been an area where I think it would be worthwhile to do more. So I think we're looking at that for this fiscal year too.
That seems like maybe the most valuable opportunity to actually make an impact. Because am I right, Manny? See, I don't have children, so you can tell me. What I hear is that children do take that information home. Is that true?
Yes, so I know Climate Smart gives presentations to various like groups outside of the city. Have you given any presentations as Climate Smart to schools like assemblies or anything in the past?
Not assemblies, no. We've done like individual class presentations. I think one of our initiatives around the Go Green teams is looking at trying to work within existing networks. And so we did do a focus on trying to work with some of the schools and school districts through that, and would want to again this year. But we just don't get a lot of response, honestly, too, because also teachers are spread very thin.
Right.
So it's very difficult, but
Right.
it's still worth, you know, trying to do what we can. But we haven't got a lot of response.
Have any of like the news, any of the local networks ever done like a pieces on climate smart stuff, if you know? San Jose has this climate smart plan and everything like that, and talk about it like a segment.
Well, yeah, we certainly have had press on particular policies that we've passed, and also actually just recently there was one on the climate arts program.
Okay.
That was through, and no, I don't remember if it's KQED or somebody, but there was a whole news segment on it, which was really awesome, which would be great to share.
Because I know I've seen like when the city was working on the multifamily chargers, there was a segment. But I mean, just like a little overview of climate smart when, you know, when an update comes, or like now that it's going to be a plan update.
So, you know, we do try, so we have our communication staff, and we do ask a lot of times, like, can we do a press release and something? They also will push back on us and say, well, that's not sort of newsworthy, or sometimes we will do press releases and they don't get picked up by the press. So it just depends on what the topic is, but we definitely work with our community. Anytime we have a policy or some like major thing, I'm not sure if again that this would be something, but we can certainly mention it to them and see if they think it could be something we could promote more.
Would there be an action from this commission to make a recommendation to the city council to put out information about what Climate Smart is doing? 2030 plan. I attended 3 of the climate art presentations. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
If anybody has an opportunity.
The tours and everything. Yeah.
Well, we just went to the Children's Discovery Museum. The things they do, and they educate, you know, what kids are learning at a very, very young age, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And again.
Yeah,
all
how
kept
do we
secret.
share that with you guys too? Because it is a good learning up when those type of things happen, like there's events in the community, things like that, it'd be nice to talk about.
We should do
Yeah.
that. That should be on an
Events
agenda, a quick
calendars.
agenda item. That's the best, or something that comes to us between
So-
meetings.
If it's an NPR show, can you just send us a link?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually,
great.
I asked our staff to put it on our climate smart webpage, so I think it's up there now.
Because I would like to share with our village's community of
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
access to.
I will say that using video is far more effective than just print.
Yeah, it's not on there yet, but I did ask them to put it. So they're on the Climate Smart main page. There's a climate art programs subsection in there. And we're planning to put the link there, but we can send it to you still separately.
Well, it's as much as I'd like to continue the conversation.
PDF, sorry.
Is there
The PDF
anything
is
that
our-
Is there anything, Bill, that you want to come out of this that's more formal than just the discussion, or is that
So the
fine?
question I have is, would it be under our purview to make a recommendation to the city council to promote what's going on, to the residents?
I don't think that there's anything stopping us from doing that. And then
That's
getting,
already part of your charter, right?
yeah,
to direct you outreach. And
Mhm.
things like that. But I mean, it does, I feel like it does help, it's good for them to hear from you guys, if that's what you feel like, as members of the community, you're not hearing about it enough.
Mhm.
That certainly we can put that in the memo if you guys have a recommendation that will say.
Maybe they can provide you with a little more financial support to do that.
Can we just simply do, because since time is flying here, do a motion for, maybe Bill and someone else, maybe I, whatever, that we, simply, direct Bill and others to develop that recommendation for the next meeting. Can we just do that rather than trying to craft it here?
Yeah, we still have time, we're not going to council with that until late fall.
Yeah, so
I
you
think
wanna-
it should be-
So do you want to make a motion to that effect? I guess that should be a motion, Bill.
I'd like to make a motion that the commission draft a memo to the city council requesting them to promote the climate smart activities. 2030 plan to the general public.
Is there a second? Randy, second?
Motions.
So I think what happens is, if you wanna write a draft up, we can talk about it next time.
Right, exactly, right, exactly. So, great, so, there's a motion on the table to create a draft for commission review, requesting the city council to, direct, staff to, find greater opportunities to educate the public about the plan update and other climate. And do you want to expand it beyond the update and other climate related activities, or?
I just, the activities of the climate smart.
Okay.
And the 2030 plan, just
Right.
educate the general public what we're about.
Okay. Is there,
Yeah, and Karen, if you can ask Ann to send some samples of previous recommendations that commission has put into memos, then you can
okay,
easier.
all right, is there a vote, motions on the table? All in favor? Raise your hand, aye, opposed? It is unanimously approved,
I have a related question.
sure,
Maybe you between those. In the Clean Energy Commission, we had ideas. The council. Do we no longer have a council member liaison?
There's
What is it?
Patrick.
Carried over from.
I just saw it on the webpage.
He's
Yeah,
holding a public meeting tonight.
Okay.
I'll call you, Bill.
So
I think sometimes he would send one of his
Michelle
aides,
showed to the.
one of his aides, or one of his aides would
Just shoot
come
the
up,
staff.
zoom in.
I see. So we can have them carry the bucket of, bring your message to council would be the, carry the,
Yeah.
Or you can talk to them, talk to one of his
Yeah.
aides when you're drafting the,
Yeah,
what we're gonna say.
Okay, so we have a
awesome.
channel.
Excellent. Thank you, Glenn. Awesome. All right, we are, at the end of,
I have one more thing on
Sure,
the
okay.
update. I had a question for Julie on the strategy, the very last page. This page here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so, this is the update, right?
So that is just like the template of what's gonna be, the update's gonna go into. She just wanted to kind of share visually what that.
It's gonna look something
Yeah,
like this.
yeah.
This would go in the update, right? Something like
Yes,
this?
yeah.
So I noticed it has 2018 and 2030. So like for, San Jose Clean Energy,
There should be an interim one.
there should be an interim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We talked to, I mean,
Because
I'm
San
definitely,
Jose-
that's what I said too. I'm like, we need an in-between one so we can see where we're going.
Yeah, because like
Yeah.
San Jose Clean Energy is at
Absolutely.
60%, whereas at 2018, we were at, I
Right.
don't know, 20.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you.
So that would be
Yeah.
a comment.
That would be really helpful. Yeah, I agree.
Question, are you looking to us to vote on a name for the scenario plan default?
no,
Suggestions.
I think it was more like brainstorm.
Yeah, well, I have a couple, climate monitor, and not that they're very sexy, but climate monitor and climate advisor. Since the point is that I think that's what it points to, provides information about what we should be doing moving forward. But anyway, just a couple of thoughts. So any other discussion points? Shall we move on to the meeting closeout? Our next regular meeting will be September 19th at 7 p.m. here in City Hall Tower, so 1753. Do I have any other announcements or additional discussion from both the commissioners and the public? If not, if there's no further discussion, then I move to adjourn the meeting. Are there any objections? So hearing no objection, I declare the meeting adjourned. And I guess maybe.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Oh, you're gonna get it first.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not leaving.
We're not leaving.
Oh, no.